2 inches pop, pop, pop. Right after Li Daoyuan finished speaking, Xiao Yu took the lead and started clapping. With him taking the lead, some of the young men who were deeply impressed by Xiao Yan's skill in alchemy also started clapping. Soon, the applause of almost everyone in the hall spread across the entire hall like tidal waves. Some of them were cheering non-stop like thunder. Shi Shen, who was standing behind the crowd, clapped with a gloomy face. When he saw the smile on Ji Yun's face, his heart was filled with jealousy and jealousy. The young man and woman who had a grudge with Xiao Yan also forced a smile on their faces. They didn't dare to imagine that the two of them had pointed their fingers at the nose of the champion and scolded him for being useless a few days ago. At the same time, in different places in the main hall, Fu Qing, who had looked down on Xiao Yan and the others, had a very interesting expression on his face. It was a grade 5-3 medicine pill. He was also an alien realm soul, but he didn't dare to imagine if he could refine it. However, this young man had completed this seemingly impossible task. When he thought of this, Fu Qing sincerely clapped his hands. Yu Cheng stood behind his teacher. His expression was as ugly as if he had eaten a dead fly. He hadn't even passed the second round of the competition, but this guy had actually won the pill competition's championship. Standing beside him was the young man who had followed Yu Cheng to tease Bai Qian. Seeing this scene, he looked at his senior brother, Yu Cheng, whose face looked uglier than a fly. He sighed and did not say anything. You must be the guild leader of the Spirit Sky City's Alchemist Guild. Li Daoyuan looked at Ji Yun and said with a smile. Seeing Ji Yun nod in agreement, Li Daoyuan looked at Hua Yan behind him and said, Yes, since Xiao Yan has won the championship, arrange the rewards that Spirit Sky City deserves and give to him. Upon hearing this, Ji Yun was overjoyed. This was the true benefit of the city where the alchemist who won the championship was located. The rewards of pill competition were extremely plentiful. There were all kinds of precious medicine pills, medicine rooms, monarch crystals, and even rare herbs. If he brought them back to Spirit Sky City, it would at least increase the overall strength of Spirit Sky City by a large margin. It would be much easier to cultivate young alchemists in the future. Oh right, let a few elders of the association escort the people of the Spirit Sky City back. I can feel that there is someone in this hall who wants to rob them halfway. Li Daoyuan's cold gaze swept across the people in the hall, then he turned to Hua Yan and said. Hearing Li Daoyuan's words, some of the people who had hidden their ambitions were startled. After that, they helplessly let go of the plan in their hearts. When Ji Yun heard this, he was naturally wild with joy. He looked at Xiao Yan, who had a calm expression on his face. He suddenly realized something and said solemnly, Xiao Yan, don't worry. I won't go back on my words. Since you have won the pill competition championship, I will give it my all in exchange for so many benefits for the Spirit Sky City. I will support the Flame Spirit Gang to become the Black Region. No, the biggest gang in the Spirit Sky City. When Xiao Yan heard this, he felt relieved. This way, he should be able to repay Du Ruoxi for saving his life. Since there is nothing else, I will bring Xiao Yan to get the championship reward. Everyone can leave now. Li Daoyuan waved his sleeve and led Xiao Yan up into the sky. Xiao Wang also led Xiao Yu and followed Li Daoyuan to the distant Alchemist Association. This fellow should be considered to have met again this time. I wonder how long it will take for us to meet again in the future. Looking at the few of them disappearing into the sky, Ji Yun let out a long sigh. Fu Zan, on the other hand, was full of fighting spirit. All right, when we meet again with Xiao Yan, I will definitely become stronger than him. Ji Yun should be happy when he heard the words of his student. However, the latter merely smiled and did not speak. He left just like that. Bai Qian looked at the sky. Her ethereal voice was filled with loneliness and a trace of undetectable grievance. What do you mean? From what you said, you don't mean anything to Xiao Yan, do you? Fu Zan turned around and giggled when he heard her. Unexpectedly, Bai Qian actually ignored him. Instead, her expression became even more desolate. What the? You actually fell in love with people? Under the full power of Li Daoyuan and Xiao Wang, the sound of the wind whistled past their ears. In an instant, they had arrived at the Spiritual Sky City Alchemist Association, the place where Xiao Yan and the others had set off this morning. Xiao Yan, you should follow Chairman Li to get the championship reward first. After that, I have something to ask you. Xiao Wang stared at Xiao Yan and said with a serious expression. Although he didn't know what it was, he was still extremely grateful to Xiao Wang for saving him. Without much hesitation, he agreed and followed Li Daoyuan upstairs. Seeing the two of them leave, Xiao Yu looked at his father with a puzzled expression. Just as he was about to ask, Xiao Wang smiled and said, "Your performance today was very good. Even if you didn't refine a grade 5 3-star medicine pill, your behavior. I'm very satisfied with your performance. Therefore, don't take the title of champion to heart. Your strength is obvious to all. No one dares to question you." Xiao Yu shook his head and said, "This child understands. Besides, Xiao Yan is indeed stronger than me. There is nothing to be bothered about. This child wants to ask, did you discover something from Xiao Yan? Otherwise, you would never have come here." Xiao Wang smiled when he heard that. He sat down on the chair and said, "Before we talk about this, let me tell you first, Xiao Yan came from the lower realm. We don't know how old he is in the lower realm for the advancement of the fighting monarch of lower realm. Perhaps it was a few thousand years old monster, or perhaps a genius in his 20s. But no matter what, he had to go from the lowest level to the fighting monarch step by step. That was why he had come to this great world. Whether it was combat experience, alchemy experience, or vision. Even his disposition was not something that a young man under the age of 20 could compare to. Even I might not be as good as him." After saying that, Xiao Wang let out a sigh. "Therefore, losing to him is nothing. In a way, you are not on the same level as him." After listening to Xiao Wang's words, Xiao Yu remained silent. However, there seemed to be a knot in his heart. Because these words had been spoken, his previous confidence seemed to have returned. "Now, let me tell you what I have found on Xiao Yan." Sensing the subtle changes in Xiao Yu, Xiao Wang smiled with relief and said solemnly, "You little fellow, you actually created a gang in the black region of Spirit Sky City." After Li Daoyuan heard Xiao Yan's story, he couldn't help but smile. Xiao Yan smiled bitterly and said, "It's just a small matter. How can it enter your eyes?" Li Daoyuan heard what he said and smiled. "Speaking of gangs, do you know what the biggest gang in Spirit Heaven Mansion is?" Seeing Xiao Yan shake his head, Li Daoyuan smiled and said, "It's the Purple Radiance sect. This is the top sect in the Spirit Heaven Mansion. The sect master is Xiao Yu's father, Xiao Wang." Xiao Yan couldn't help but feel shocked when he heard this. Xiao Wang was the sect master of the Purple Radiance sect, the biggest sect in the Spirit Heaven Mansion. No wonder he was on equal footing with Li Daoyuan. Furthermore, Xiao Yu was Xiao Wang's son and Li Daoyuan's student. With such a background, who would dare claim to be number one in the Spirit Heaven Mansion? "I think Sect Master Xiao is also interested in you. Although I don't know what's going on, I think it should be a good thing." At that time, if that flame spirit gang of yours were to get on the Purple Radiance sect's good side, it would be much easier for them to make a meteoric rise. Li Daoyuan couldn't help but tease him. Xiao Yan could only smile bitterly when he heard this. He was still able to make a meteoric rise. The strongest person in the Flame Spirit Gang was only at the Monarch Spirit, so what right did he have to show his might in the Spirit Heaven Mansion? The reason why he founded the Flame Spirit Gang was to let Du Ruoxi and those people from the Tuanji Gang live a better life. He had never thought of doing something so grand and magnificent. After following Li Daoyuan's footsteps for a long time, they finally arrived in front of a door made of limestone. There was a faint fluorescent screen in front of the door. The light on the screen circulated and faintly revealed a shocking aura. "This is a secret treasure that can strengthen one's soul. It is the source of the things that you cultivated in that room yesterday. Let's see how long you can last." Quote 1. After saying that, Li Daoyuan took out a bluestone seal and placed it in front of the fluorescent screen. A groove automatically appeared on the fluorescent screen and absorbed the bluestone seal. In the next moment, the brilliance on the fluorescent screen dissipated. The bluestone door behind also slowly opened. The door flickered with a flowing light, isolating everything inside from the outside world. Li Daoyuan walked forward and placed his hand on the flowing light. Under Xiao Yan's surprised gaze, the light gradually dissipated, revealing a heart-piercing black scene. After following Li Daoyuan into the bluestone door, the scene in front of them suddenly changed. The spring water appeared on the ground, and the surrounding was still filled with endless spatial turbulence, causing people to tremble in fear. The color of the spring water was pure black, and anyone who looked at it would feel as if their soul was sinking into it. When Xiao Yan's soul energy touched the spring water, he couldn't help but feel a warm feeling coming from the depths of his soul. This spring water is called the spring of soul accumulation, and it has been nurtured. The effect of strengthening the soul is that some of us alchemists who have reached the level of illusory souls have immersed our soul energy into the soul springs for a long period of time. The time it takes for the soul origin to form the pond water is around 4 years. As a reward for the champion, the pill competition will hold it every 5 years. Li Daoyuan looked at the spring water in front of him and introduced it to Xiao Yan. After you go in, he said, soaking your soul energy into the bottom of the spring will strengthen your soul energy. During this process, because you are absorbing the soul origin that does not belong to you. In order to transform them into your own soul, you need to forcefully transform them. Thus, your soul will feel extreme pain. The longer you spend, the more painful it will be. The deeper the pain, the more benefits you'll receive. Li Daoyuan looked at Xiao Yan and smiled. Do you know how long the previous champion lasted? Seeing Xiao Yan shake his head in confusion, Li Daoyuan stretched out a finger and said, less than 2 hours. Before you all, which year's most outstanding champion was captured by the law enforcers of Nether Domain, so they had no choice but to give the champion second place. He was a fellow who could refine a grade 5 1-star medicine pill, and had persisted for nearly 4 hours. With your ability, I think you can persist for at least 6 hours. At that time, your soul will definitely have a significant improvement. After saying that, Li Daoyuan patted Xiao Yan's shoulder, turned around, and left. When the stone door closed, Xiao Yan looked at the black spring in front of him. The pool water was so calm that there were no ripples. Even though the surrounding space was flowing rapidly, it did not have any effect on this place. Feeling a trace of warmth coming from his soul, Xiao Yan did not hesitate anymore. He took off all his clothes and slowly stepped into the spring. He stepped into the spring as if he had stepped into a void. He was in the depths of the pitch-black spring, but he couldn't feel any trace of water on his body. The strange feeling also made Xiao Yan click his tongue in wonder. He sat down cross-legged and followed Li Daoyuan's instructions. His soul was released from between his eyebrows, entering the bottom of the pool without holding anything back. Instantly, a warm feeling rose from Xiao Yan's heart. His soul felt as if it was floating in the air. Xiao Yan couldn't help but moan. A trace of laziness spread out from the deepest part of his heart. It was as if his soul was lying on a comfortable bed, enjoying the ultimate softness and comfort. Xiao Yan regained his senses and looked at his chest. There was an extremely dim dark golden word there. If one didn't look carefully, one wouldn't be able to find it. At this moment, this dark golden word was unexpectedly hidden in his chest. It had no intention of coming out and having fun. This is strange. Logically speaking, the prestige power spell will assimilate with the soul. When the prestige power spell absorbs the frenzied chi, the soul will feel pain, and when the soul is strengthened, the prestige power spell should also be able to sense it. Looking at the faint dark golden words on his chest, Xiao Yan remembered what Elder Yi had told him, and couldn't help but feel a little strange. When he recalled Kai Shui's heavenly sovereign chi when he entered the palace, his soul immediately felt an extreme pain. At that time, the prestige power spell should still be full of energy, and that was when the pain in his soul suddenly stopped. When he tried to feel the prestige power spell, he felt as helpless as a stone bull entering the ocean. Xiao Yan furrowed his brows. Suddenly, he remembered something. He stared at the big word on his chest and couldn't help but exclaim in joy. Could it be that he has absorbed enough qi and has begun to hibernate? He remembered that he had asked Elder Yi how he could stop the prestige power spell from absorbing the qi. The answer Elder Yi gave him was the qi that he needed this morning. The prestige power spell would naturally fall into hibernation and evolve to a higher level. Thinking of this, Xiao Yan immediately relaxed. Although the prestige power spell was of little value to him now, when he was facing the pressure of some powerful warriors, at least, it wouldn't make him look like he was in a difficult situation. After solving the doubts in his mind, Xiao Yan focused all his attention on strengthening his soul. Soon, in his consciousness, his soul gradually became more focused. The fatigue caused by concocting pills had completely disappeared, and what replaced it was an even stronger vitality. At the same time, during the process of strengthening his soul, Xiao Yan felt a needle-like pain in his soul. However, Xiao Yan, who had been tempered by the prestige power spell for a long time, naturally didn't care about this pain. He was still in high spirits and focused on strengthening his soul. This is the reason why I want to ask Xiao Yan about some things. If he really advanced to the fighting Qi continent, he must know about the Xiao clan in the lower realm. This will be a great help to the clan, and it can also solve the doubts of some of the elders in the clan. In the main hall, Xiao Wang spoke in a deep voice. He told Xiao Yu everything that happened. Xiao Yu was dumbfounded when he heard everything. Even though his father had told him everything himself, Xiao Yu still found it hard to believe. It took him a long time before he finally spoke. But what if he did not break through to the fighting Qi continent? Impossible. The moment he spat out his blood essence and fused with the medicine pill, I could clearly feel a trace of throbbing in his bloodline. Although it is much weaker than the bloodline connection between you and me, it is definitely the connection between the Xiao clan, Xiao Wang said resolutely. But, Father, according to what you said, there hasn't been a single fighting monarch appearing in the fighting Qi continent for 10,000 years. Perhaps that continent no longer exists. Even if it does exist, the fact that there hasn't been a single fighting monarch in the past tens of thousands of years is enough to explain a lot of problems. How could Xiao Yan know about it? Xiao Wang sighed and said, "This is exactly the question I want to ask him. Something must have happened here. According to the ancient records of the family, in the fighting Qi continent in the past, not only our Xiao clan, but also many superpowers in the great world. Those who went were the geniuses among them, with their bloodline and their descendants' bloodline, but now, not a single fighting monarch has been produced. I can't help but suspect." Wu Xiao Yan, who had calmed his heart and cultivated his soul, finally felt a trace of unbearable pain from the depths of his soul. It was as though a raging flame was burning. Xiao Yan's face finally changed a little. It hurts, but, compared to the damage caused by the peak of the prestige power spell to his soul, it's still a little easier. Clenching his teeth, Xiao Yan sucked in a breath of cold air. His voice trembled as he muttered to himself. After that, he took a deep breath and forced himself to calm down and continue cultivating. Gulp, gulp, gulp. The black spring water surged violently as though it was boiling over with the flow of time. Xiao Yan, who was sitting within it, had an extremely flushed face. Sweat continuously flowed down from his body. Due to the pain, veins bulged on his forehead and neck. His originally delicate and pretty face had now become extremely ferocious. Outside the stone door, Li Daoyuan raised his eyebrows and looked at the stone door with some surprise. It had been 8 hours, but he still had no intention of coming out. This guy had actually persisted for such a long time. 2 inches Kai. The black spring water seemed to be boiling as it continuously formed black bubbles. After which, it exploded, causing the surface of the water to ripple. Xiao Yan, who was sitting cross-legged, forcefully endured the intense pain that penetrated deep into his soul. He still had no intention of stopping. In Xiao Yan's consciousness, his soul became more and more solid, and his soul power also gradually became stronger. Although this process was full of unbearable torture, the benefits he got in return were unimaginable. Outside the stone door, Li Daoyuan had his hands behind his back, and his eyes were closed. No one knew what he was thinking. After a while, he opened his eyes and saw that there was still no movement from the stone door. He frowned. It had been nearly 6 hours, why hadn't he come out yet? Could it be that he fainted inside? He's really greedy. He doesn't know how to come out even if he can't take it anymore, Li Daoyuan mumbled to himself. He walked forward and wanted to open the stone door. Rumble. At this moment, the stone door, which had been closed for a long time, finally opened slowly. After that, Xiao Yan walked out with a spirited look on his face. When Li Daoyuan saw this, he was slightly stunned. When he saw Xiao Yan's appearance, there was a slight sign of him fainting. Li Daoyuan was about to speak when his expression suddenly changed. He looked at Xiao Yan as if he was looking at a monster. He said with some surprise, "Your soul power has broken through to the middle period of alien stage?" Seeing Xiao Yan nod his head in affirmation, Li Daoyuan couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. What a monstrous genius! He had broken through to the early alien realm in just 12 hours. He had reached the middle period of alien stage, and when he first saw the former. It was only 2 days ago, when Xiao Yan, his soul power had just advanced to the early stage. He had never thought that it would take so little time. His soul power had already reached the middle stage. Wait, you won't. Li Daoyuan seemed to have thought of something. He looked into the stone door and saw that the originally dark spring water had become clear to the bottom. It was like an ordinary spring water. Li Daoyuan's heart trembled and his heart ached. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I can't believe you absorbed all of it. Do you still want to hold the next batch of pill competition in Spiritual Sky City? Li Daoyuan helplessly patted his forehead and sighed. His tone sounded like he was gnashing his teeth in anger. Seeing Xiao Yan's innocent expression, Li Daoyuan didn't know what to say. He looked at the clear spring water in the stone door with some sadness and let out a long sigh. Could it be that all alchemists after the 3 steps soul transfer are so monstrous? The nearly 100 years of savings in Spiritual Sky City had been used up by Xiao Yan in 6 hours. Li Daoyuan felt like vomiting blood. Didn't you say that you can form so much spring water in 4 years? It won't be a problem for Junior to absorb all of it. Xiao Yan probed when he saw Li Daoyuan's ugly expression. Li Daoyuan glared at Xiao Yan and said, "Do you think everyone can absorb all the soul origins in the spring like you? Yet, you didn't have any left." Xiao Yan raised his eyebrows when he heard this. He tactfully didn't say anything else, allowing Li Daoyuan to mumble by himself. "Let's go. Xiao Wang still has something to ask you. After waiting for so long, I don't know if he's still here." After closing the stone door, Li Daoyuan sighed and brought Xiao Yan down. There were no more soul origins in the soul accumulating spring. It was unknown whether the pill competition would be able to continue the next term. It seemed like he had to find his teacher to think of a way. Thinking of this, Li Daoyuan remembered what the 2 law enforcers of Nether Domain said before they left. He frowned and stopped talking. They arrived at the main hall. When they arrived at the hall, only Xiao Yu was there. When he saw Li Daoyuan and Xiao Yan coming over, Xiao Yu stood up and said, "Father has already left and returned to the Purple Radiance sect. He said that if Xiao Yan comes out and asks me to bring him to the Purple Radiance sect, he has something to ask." Li Daoyuan nodded. After pondering for a moment, he took out a purple token and handed it to Xiao Yan. "This is the certificate of champion of the pill competition in the Alchemist Association in Spirit Sky. It also represents a certain status. With this, any alchemist association in the star field will be able to get help." Xiao Yan was delighted when he heard this. He had worked hard for so long. Wasn't it all for the sake of getting this thing? Now that he had finally gotten it, he had finally completed one of the 3 tasks of the Holy Rank trial. This champion of the pill competition can be considered the highest honor in the prefecture. To be on the safe side, Xiao Yan took the purple token and asked. Of course, Li Daoyuan heard him and smiled. Although it's only a small competition with more than 400 participants, it's still the pill competition organized by the entire prefecture. The champion will naturally be the highest honor in the prefecture. After listening to Li Daoyuan's words, Xiao Yan finally felt relieved. He put away the token and bid farewell to Li Daoyuan and Xiao Yu before leaving the Alchemist Association. Watching the 2 of them disappear into the distance, Li Daoyuan let out a long sigh. He mumbled to himself, "Holding that token, it also means that you have become a guest elder of the Spiritual Sky City's Alchemist Guild. In a few decades' time, you will be a dark horse sent by the Spiritual Sky City's pill competition. Work hard, little fellow." Under the dim sky, Li Daoyuan stood in his original spot and did not speak for a long time. The Purple Radiance sect was located at the top of a tall mountain in the west of the Spiritual Sky City. It was the holy land in the hearts of all the people who practiced martial arts in the Spirit Heaven Mansion. That towering mountain was also known as the Purple Flower Mountain by everyone. Flying was prohibited in the Spiritual Sky City. After Xiao Yan and Xiao Yu left the Spiritual Sky City in their beast carriages, naturally, some disciples of the Purple Radiance sect came to greet them with flying spirit beasts. These disciples were very familiar with Xiao Yu. They were also very respectful towards Xiao Yu. The latter was not only the son of their sect chief, but also the son of their sect chief. After receiving the order to come to Spiritual Sky City to receive Xiao Yan, these disciples were naturally overjoyed. Sitting on the flying spirit beast and looking at the scenery below getting smaller and smaller, Xiao Yu took a deep breath and looked at Xiao Yan with some hesitation. "Xiao. Mr. Xiao, I felt it when I was in the city just now. Something is not right. Are you?" Xiao Yan smiled when he heard this. Although Xiao Yu looked extremely cold, he had a fiery heart. His performance in the pill competition had made Xiao Yan admire him. "What is it?" Xiao Yan stared into Xiao Yu's eyes and said with a smile. "Your soul power. Have you already advanced to the middle period of alien stage?" Xiao Yu didn't hesitate any longer and said in a deep voice. When he said this, his heart trembled slightly. If he really advanced to the middle period of alien stage, with Xiao Yan's talent and ability, he could even refine 6th grade medicine pill. As if he had seen through Xiao Yu's thoughts, Xiao Yan gently nodded his head and said with a smile, "Even if he advanced to the middle period of alien stage, it's impossible for him to refine 6th grade medicine pills. My strength is only at the monarch spirit, and the origin monarch chi required for the 6th grade medicine pill is far from enough. This is the first point. The second point, Heaven Cauldron, right?" Seeing Xiao Yu nod his head, Xiao Yan said in a deep voice. "Refining tier 6 and above medicine pills requires heaven cauldrons. But the number of heaven cauldrons is extremely rare. Furthermore, the control of heaven cauldrons. It's far from what a middle period of alien stage soul can do." After hearing Xiao Yan's words, Xiao Yu smiled slightly and cupped his hands towards Xiao Yan. He said sincerely, "Xiao Yu is convinced of Mr. Xiao's strength." Xiao Yan did not know what to say, so he could only smile back. When Xiao Yu saw this, his heart moved. He opened his mouth. In the end, he still said with some uncertainty, "Excuse me, may I ask, Mr. Xiao, is it the fighting monarch from the fighting Qi continent?" Xiao Yan was stunned when he heard this, and then slowly nodded under Xiao Yu's surprised expression. He searched for the great world of heaven breaking, and joined this group to create a new glory together. Tilde 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 tilde. 2 Mount Ziwa is surrounded by clouds, and the mountains are majestic. Green trees were everywhere, and they were located in the west side of Spiritual Sky City. It was called the Holy Land of Martial Arts in Spiritual Sky City. Every year, when new disciples were recruited, many people broke their heads and squeezed in. It was precisely because of this that the disciples recruited by the Purple Radiance sect were all very talented. Over the years, there were as many experts as the clouds in the Purple Radiance sect. It seemed like they had become the true overlord of the Spiritual Sky City. The low golden-feathered eagle let out a sharp cry, and slowly landed on a square paved with limestone on the peak of the mountain. It then stood on the ground. Xiao Yan looked around. There were many buildings in the surroundings. Beside the mountain, there were huge trees and trees. The trees were so thick that it seemed as if they could cover the entire world. Vaguely, the sound of disciples from the Purple Radiance sect practicing could be heard from afar, and their imposing manner soared into the sky. "Let's go to the main hall. Father is waiting for you there." Xiao Yu got off the golden-feathered eagle, and led Xiao Yan away with familiarity. "Who is that guy? He looks younger than us, but he is walking with young master." Seeing Xiao Yan and Xiao Yu walking away, one of the disciples couldn't help but ask. Another disciple patted the golden-feathered eagle's big head and asked it to fly away without answering his question. Instead, he let out a long sigh and said with a longing expression, "I heard that there were 2 heavenly sovereign-level warriors who broke into the pill competition's venue today. The former chairman of the Alchemist Association and the Spirit Heaven Mansion's master had both appeared." He didn't know what was going on. A battle between 4 heavenly sovereign warriors. Just thinking about it made his blood boil. When can I have that kind of strength? The disciple who asked the question couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Are you kidding me? The sect chief is merely a monarch cultivation warrior. Why do you still want to become a heavenly sovereign? What a beautiful dream." His fantasy was interrupted, and the disciple lowered his head in disappointment. He looked in the direction where Xiao Yan and Xiao Yu had left, shook his head, and walked towards the training square with his companions. Along the way, Xiao Yu didn't tell Xiao Yan what his father wanted to talk to him about. Instead, he introduced all kinds of buildings in Purple Radiance sect to Xiao Yan. Although he had stayed in the Spiritual Sky City for a long time, Xiao Yu wasn't unfamiliar with this place. He brought Xiao Yan along and shuttled back and forth on the winding road. Very quickly, a grand hall appeared in front of the two of them. Inside the hall, the sandalwood was quietly burning. A refreshing smell hit their faces. Xiao Wang was sitting on a chair in the hall, flipping through an ancient book. "Father, Xiao Yan is here." Hearing Xiao Yu's voice, Xiao Wang slowly raised his head and looked at Xiao Yan behind Xiao Yu. A smile appeared on his face as he looked at Xiao Yu. How is it? Xiao Yu smiled bitterly and nodded when he heard him. Father is right. Mr. Xiao broke through from fighting Qi continent. Xiao Yan frowned when he heard the conversation between the two. When he recalled the expression on Xiao Yu's face after asking him, he immediately understood what was going on. Xiao Yan, come here. Xiao Wang slowly closed the ancient book in his hand and put it away. He pointed to the seat next to him and said to Xiao Yan. Although Xiao Yan was shocked, he still walked over. According to Xiao Yan's thoughts, Xiao Wang was also curious about why fighting Qi continent hadn't broken through to the fighting monarch realm in nearly 10,000 years, just like how Elder Yi was surprised in the past. Are you from the Xiao clan in the fighting Qi continent? As soon as Xiao Yan sat down, Xiao Wang impatiently asked. He stared at Xiao Yan with a serious expression. What? Xiao Yan was shocked when he heard this. He said in surprise, Senior, how did you know about the Xiao clan in fighting Qi continent? Xiao Wang smiled when he heard this. That's right. Not only do I know about the Xiao clan in fighting Qi continent, I also know about the Jiyu clan, the spirit-devouring race, and the dark flame ancient dragon race. After hearing Xiao Wang's short words, Xiao Yan's mouth immediately became dry. It took him a long time before he said, the Jiyu clan that Senior mentioned. The fighting Qi continent does exist. As for the spirit-devouring race, they have already disappeared for tens of thousands of years before this junior advanced. As for that dark flame ancient dragon, this junior has never heard of it. Xiao Wang couldn't help but sigh when he heard this. He smiled and said, I didn't expect that the weakest Jiyu clan would still exist, but the descendants of the spirit-devouring race and the ancient dark flame dragon have declined. Xiao Yan calmed the shock in his heart and looked at Xiao Wang. Senior, what do you mean? Xiao Wang sighed and said, You might not believe me, but what I said is the truth. Since you have advanced from the fighting Qi continent and are also a disciple of the Xiao clan, there is no doubt that you have the blood of the Xiao clan flowing in your body. Hong Long, these words were like a bolt of lightning that exploded in Xiao Yan's mind. He opened his mouth. Xiao Yan's face was filled with disbelief. Xiao Wang's solemn expression didn't seem like he was joking, but what was the Xiao clan of the Great World? What was the relationship between the Xiao clan of fighting Qi continent and the Xiao clan of the Great World? Xiao Wang raised his head and looked outside the main hall. After pondering for a moment, he said slowly, according to the ancient records of the clan, millions of years ago. The war in the Great World didn't stop, and all kinds of powers attacked each other. This led to the deaths of countless people. At that time, the Xiao clan was at its most prosperous period. There were 3 ultimate saint experts in the family. There were also dozens of heavenly sovereign experts. As for monarch cultivation, there were countless of sovereign realm experts, but even so, there is still a risk of being wiped out. At that time, there was a life and death battle between 2 experts who had surpassed the peak of the saint realm in the battle domain. The self-destruction of one of the experts had almost destroyed the entire battle domain. The other expert was also severely injured and had disappeared without a trace. Due to the tremendous power of the self-destruction, space itself was unable to heal for a long time. To think that the passageway between the Great World and the lower realm would be opened. Thus, some powers set their sights on it. The fighting monarch that has broken through in the lower world has an extraordinary talent. If nothing unexpected happens after coming to the Great World, it will at least reach the Emperor cultivation. There are even some who can reach the Supreme Saint realm or even a higher realm. Therefore, many of the major powers are thinking of cultivating more fighting monarch from the lower world, which will become their combat strength in the future. Among them, there is the Xiao clan. However, the passageway that connects to the lower realm cannot be entered by the fleshly body. Only the soul body can enter, which means that someone must abandon the fleshly body. Give up everything. At that time, although the Xiao clan seemed powerful, it was also very difficult for them to enter. While everyone was silent, one of the 3 saints willingly gave up everything and descended to the lower realm. Because the soul power of the utmost being saint is stronger, the chances of him cultivating the fighting monarch is also very high. That spatial zone is the passageway that connects to the fighting Qi continent. Later on, although many major powers wanted to send their soul bodies to the lower realm, only a few of them succeeded. A few years later, in the Jiyu clan's fighting monarch in the Saint Heaven realm. The fighting monarch of the spirit-devouring race in the Mingan divine domain and the fighting monarch of the spirit domain's dark flame ancient dragon. Later on, they all became the backbone of these forces. In that great war, without the help of the fighting monarch of Lower Realm, it's very likely that the Xiao clan has already turned into dust in history. After the war ended, the number of fighting monarchies that ascended began to decrease. It was only now that people began to know that with the reproduction of the races in the Lower Realm, it would be very difficult for them to break through with the help of their bloodline. Until 10,000 years ago, there were no more fighting Qi continents that could ascend in the fighting Qi continent. After saying all that he knew, Xiao Wang looked at Xiao Yan. The latter's face was filled with disbelief, and he didn't say anything for a long time. Xiao Wang sighed. Anyone would find it hard to accept the sudden news. Huff, huff. Xiao Yan's breathing became a little hurried. Xiao Wang's words were like a series of sharp blades that forcefully cut his body. It was as if a huge mountain was pressing down on his chest, causing him to be unable to breathe. What kind of joke was this? The Xiao clan that he was proud of in the Lower Realm had actually come here like this? Could it be that the so-called 8 Great GU clan in Fighting Qi continent was merely controlled by these superpowers in the Great World? This chapter. It was written with some fear, but no matter what, it had no intention of disobeying the original work. It should be said that under the premise of basic respect, such a plot. In the following battles, the main character met the seniors of the Xiao clan as soon as he arrived in the New World. But this was basically impossible. Since it was a new world, there were all kinds of tangled things. Moreover, the major families in Fighting Qi continent couldn't explain it either. The big world had broken through this concept, and they hoped that it would brighten everyone's eyes. Thank you. Kneel and beg for a reward. 0. The hall suddenly became unusually quiet. Xiao Wang and his son didn't say anything. They just stared at Xiao Yan, who was sitting on the chair. The latter's face was full of shock, and his lips were trembling slightly. These words that almost defied common sense were unacceptable to him. He looked at Xiao Yan, who seemed to have gone crazy. Xiao Yu also sighed in his heart. When he heard his father say these words, he was also shocked. However, Xiao Yan was definitely not there. The current feeling, an indescribable feeling, could cause one's mind to collapse. How could it be like this? Xiao Yan clenched his fists tightly, but he did not have any strength left in his body. His mind was filled with dizziness, and waves of pain came from his heart, as if his soul was trembling. Xiao Wang pursed his lips and let out a long sigh. After that senior saint transformed into his soul and entered the Lower Realm, he said. In just a few decades, he broke through to the Fighting Monarch realm, and then went to the Great World. Under the protection of the Xiao clan, he reached the level of a saint in just 100 years. He amazed the entire world. After that, the senior broke into the Saint Heaven territory alone and fought with his old enemies. After the battle, both of them disappeared without a trace. After that, the number of Xiao clans in the Xiao clan in the Lower Realm decreased gradually. Moreover, no one has reached the level of a senior anymore. Although that's the case, until tens of thousands of years ago, there were no more Fighting Qi continents that could advance in Fighting Qi continent. Xiao clan, GU clan. Even the Dark Flame Ancient Dragon clan had sent their experts to investigate, but they found nothing. You appeared when everyone thought that the Fighting Qi continent had been abandoned. Xiao Wang's voice slowly resounded in Xiao Yan's ears, causing the struggle between Xiao Yan's brows to weaken slightly. I understand. It was a long time before Xiao Yan's tired voice rang out. He raised his head and looked at Xiao Wang. Senior, may I ask if there is anyone who has broken through to the Fighting Qi continent in the Xiao clan? Xiao Wang shook his head with a solemn expression. No, there was no fighting monarch that had broken through to the emperor cultivation in the Fighting Qi continent more than 20,000 years ago. According to the ancient records in our family, the last senior who broke through to the emperor cultivation was 30,000 years ago, but his body exploded when he broke through to the emperor cultivation. When Xiao Yan heard this, the hope in his eyes dimmed a lot. Suddenly, his expression changed. Just as he was about to speak, Xiao Wang said in a deep voice, the current Xiao clan. It has been peaceful for a long time, and it has caused some people to relax their minds. As a disciple of one of the 4 big families in the star field, the rejection towards the fighting monarch of Lower Realm has begun. They had a kind of innate superiority mentality. They felt that the fighting monarch of the Xiao clan, which had broken through from the Lower Realm, was no longer qualified to have the same cultivation resources as them. This mentality was even more obvious after the advancement of the Fighting Qi continents in the Fighting Qi continent. Therefore, if you want the recognition of the Xiao clan, it won't be that easy. Xiao Yan's expression turned cold when he heard this. A flame of anger started burning in his heart. His peaceful heart started to struggle again. It seemed like they had really regarded the Xiao clan in the lower realm as their chess piece. They could summon them at any time they wanted. In other words, that senior supreme saint is the ancestor of the Xiao clan of Fighting Qi continent. Xiao Yan looked at Xiao Wang. The shock in his heart had calmed down slightly. Seeing Xiao Wang nod his head, Xiao Yan continued, ever since that supreme saint came to Fighting Qi continent, has the Xiao clan in the Great World provided any help? Xiao Wang shook his head and sighed. Ever since that spatial passageway came out, the Xiao clan only dropped one soul body. After that, that spatial passageway was suddenly repaired. Therefore, the Xiao clan won't be able to provide any help to the lower realm. Is that so? Xiao Yan narrowed his eyes and cupped his fists at Xiao Wang. Since that's the case, millions of years have passed. The grudges between the Xiao clan of the Great World and the Xiao clan of Fighting Qi continent have been drawn out. In other words, the Xiao clan of the Great World has no relationship with the Xiao clan of Fighting Qi continent. I, Xiao Yan, belong to the Xiao clan of Fighting Qi continent, not the Xiao clan of the Great World. Xiao Wang's facial expression changed slightly when he heard Xiao Yan's resolute words. With a heavy tone, he said, "What are you talking about? Even though the Xiao clan in the Great World and the Xiao clan in Fighting Qi continent have been here for millions of years. No matter what, the Xiao clan in the lower realm is a branch of the Xiao clan in the Great World. No matter how much time has passed, the blood of the Xiao clan still flows in your body. Just like us." Xiao Yan fearlessly looked into Xiao Wang's eyes and said in a deep voice, "That's right. Junior admits that the Supreme Senior of the Great World is the ancestor of the Xiao clan, but that doesn't mean that he has acknowledged the Xiao clan of the Great World. This is the Fighting Qi continent, the Fighting Qi continent. Especially after 20,000 years, no one in the Fighting Qi continent has broken through to the Fighting Monarch realm. This Junior dares to say that if Senior discovers this Junior here, I'm afraid that the entire Xiao clan will completely forget about the Fighting Qi continent. Besides, time has changed, and nothing can remain immortal. That Senior, the Supreme Saint, was the patriarch of the Xiao clan, but over the past few million years, the Xiao clan of the Fighting Qi continent has been experiencing decline and glory time and time again, and their relationship with that Senior has also become more and more distant." Xiao Yan's voice was unusually heavy. He looked at Xiao Wang and said word by word, "You are right. There are very few people in the Xiao clan who know about the Xiao clan in the Fighting Qi continent, but there is a reason for it. A continent that has been in the lower realm for more than 20,000 years has yet to break through to the next realm. This is enough to show that the continent has been destroyed or no longer exists. It is very normal for them to forget about it." Xiao Wang let out a long breath and said slowly. Xiao Yan was silent. The hall had once again returned to a strange silence. Xiao Yu opened his mouth when he saw Xiao Yan fighting with his father, but he didn't know what to say. Millions of years had passed, and the connection between their bloodlines had weakened to an undetectable degree. Even if that Supreme Senior had extraordinary strength, it was impossible for him to spread the true power of his bloodline to this day. It's just like what Senior said. There hasn't been a single fighting monarch that has been broken through in the Fighting Qi continent for more than 20,000 years. The Xiao clan of the Great World looked down on the fighting monarch of Lower Realm. Although they didn't know why they were looked down upon, it was still a good thing. From now on, the Xiao clan of Fighting Qi continent and the Xiao clan of the Great World would be able to draw a clear line between them. Xiao Yan was silent for a while, then he raised his head and said in a deep voice. His tone was incomparably firm. When Xiao Wang heard this, he immediately flew into a rage, but in the next moment, he didn't know what to say. There were too many things that changed in a million years. After such a long time, even if he was as stunning as a saint, he would still turn into a wisp of dirt. Besides, ever since that Supreme Senior went to Fighting Qi continent. After that, it was the fighting monarchies from the lower realm that helped the Xiao clan in the Great World, but the Xiao clan in the Great World couldn't do anything to the lower realm. After that, the feeling of belonging to the Xiao clan in the Fighting Qi continent became fainter and fainter. In their hearts, this was probably something Xiao Yan had considered. Xiao Wang looked at the stubborn Xiao Yan with a complicated look in his eyes. He sighed and said, "This is what you think. I can't change it. I want to go to the Gu clan in Fighting Qi continent." The members of the Dark Flame Ancient Dragon race also had the same thought. However, the great elder of the Xiao clan told us that if we find any clansmen of the Fighting Qi continent who have advanced, we must bring him to the Xiao clan. He wants to ask him personally. As for the matters of the Fighting Qi continent, that's why. Xiao Yan, no matter what your opinion on the Xiao clan in the great world is, you have to make a trip to the Xiao clan. At the end of his words, Xiao Wang's tone became unquestionable. Xiao clan. Xiao Yan's eyes sparkled, and he finally nodded his head. It just so happened that he had a lot of things to ask the Xiao clan. The relationship that had been cut for millions of years must be truly resolved here.